Scarpa Gabon, who has been living on Elbaf, thought it was 3 to 4 years since Roger died, in which Shanks corrected him saying it's been 10 long years since the Pirate King passed away and started the Great Pirate Era, in which Gabon had a very shocking reply stating it must feel so long for you, confirming only Shanks is feeling the years. Now this could be because Gabon spent more time with Roger in total, so 10 years wouldn't feel that long, or the real reason Oda has set up this dialogue during the Loki / Rocks Roger Garp era flashback. Yes, Elbaf's time moves differently, and I won't be surprised if Oda implements the final time skip before Luffy officially goes for the Pirate King title. And the time skip will only be a year, since Oda said if Akainu was the main character, it would only take him a year to become Pirate King, and Luffy to me is around that Akainu power level. I also believe shonen are known for its legendary time skip. Just look at Dragon Ball, the multiple time skips after the Tenkaichi Budokai fighting tournament and Kami training, to Dragon Ball Z through the Saiyan saga, Frieza saga, Android saga, and the Buu saga, ending the series with a 10-year time skip. We also see Naruto's 3-year time skip to Shippuden, and Naruto ending with him becoming Hokage. That was a major time skip. So I don't mind One Piece having one more time skip before the major time skip after Luffy becomes Pirate King, and I think Elbaf is the perfect island to have it done, where not a lot of time is lost through the time skip, kind of like a hyperbolic time chamber. So subscribe to the channel. I don't care about likes right now. I just want you guys to subscribe. We're so close to 100k subscribers, and become Noti Gang as we do a deep dive on the surprise Elbaf time skip. Now, after Scarpa, Gabon, and Shanks were discussing their former captain's death, Gabon moved the conversation to Little Garden, surprisingly where they met Dory and Bragi, but Oda cut him off for a specific reason. It's like he wanted to reveal the secret much later in the arc. We know Vivi mentioned the island being stuck in prehistoric time, which could have something to do with what Scarpa was about to say because of the frozen time concept. We also know Louis Arnold stated Little Garden was an island of giants. I know it's kind of ironic with the name. This is also interesting knowing he actually documented the real island of giants, Elbaf. We also can't forget to mention it takes 1 whole year to reset the log post at Little Garden, something unique from other islands in the Grand Line. Then there's Dory and Bragi fighting on Little Garden for 100 years, and how giants live 3 times as longer than humans. The final thing that ties all this together is Louis Arnold stating not to linger too long in Elbaf. Coincidentally, this is when we saw Scarpa Gabon as a silhouette, and his Conqueror's Haki coding surpassing the likes of Whitebeard, Rayleigh, and Garp in the story, which, let's be honest here, those 3 characters should be stronger than Scarpa Gabon. But we do know Haki grows weaker as you age. But what if Scarpa's age has been much slower than the rest of the legends? This is just a theory, as you can obviously argue that Galaxy Impact and Rayleigh's sword leaking Conqueror's Haki before fighting Blackbeard were stronger and potentially stronger showings of Conqueror's Haki, and Whitebeard being not just old but sick, having to do with his marine forward Haki struggles. And it was pre-time skip where Haki was less developed. But all I'm trying to say is the Straw Hats might have to look more into Louis Arnold's observations before they lose grasp of the actual time they stay on Elbaf, which to me personally might actually benefit the Straw Hat Pirates, because yes, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji are looking incredibly powerful, even Jinbei as well, but the rest of the Straw Hat Pirates are looking kinda shady under the light. Now I also want to mention the fact that Loki, after eating the legendary Del fruit, went out to sea. And when Loki went out to sea, guys, he was rampaging. He got a bounty of, I believe, around 2.6 million berry bounty. And you have to understand, Loki could have got that special bounty because of his ancient giant blood connected to Herald, but also he could have got that too because of the legendary Del fruit he ate. Regardless, Loki was a monster. Like, he almost joined Big Mom in an alliance, maybe just try to take down Big Mom. I don't know what his idea or plans were. We know he's a schemer, we know he's a plotter. Hayuden's been trying to convince us for so long. We know he looks up to Roxy Zebek and probably has the same goals as Roxy Zebek. But you have to understand, after he was rampaging, Shanks took him down. And that was 6 years before the current story right now. And Shanks became a Yonker after taking down Loki. And Loki's been in the underworld since Shanks took him down. And it also stated how all of Elbaf had to team up, and so many different things of showing how strong Loki is. But I'm kind of focusing on maybe Loki has been in the underworld that long since Shanks took him down, because Elbaf seems to be 3 years slower than the regular world. Maybe Loki's only been locked up in the underworld technically for only 2 years in Elbaf, but in the outside world it's been 6 years. And that can change a lot of things to me personally, guys. If Elbaf's time is moving differently from the outside world, there's so many things you can do. I get the whole time travel that we got on Wano, that was amazing, but I think this could take it to a whole another level, guys. Like, we don't need Toki right now. Now, some people are gonna argue against a time skip for the fundamental enjoyment of One Piece. Look at the East Blue Saga. Luffy during the East Blue Saga is pretty relatively strong, and he gets a really strong set of crew members in Zoro, Usopp, Nami, Sanji, and of course they make it all the way through the East Blue Saga, through every fight, and they get to, of course, Logtown, and right after that they go to the Grand Line. No time skip needed. Many arcs in this saga, and people are like, why can't Oda keep doing this for Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates? Why do they need a time skip? Why can't they just grow as their journey goes on, guys? Now, I do want to argue, technically there was kind of a time skip before that East Blue Saga, because we've seen in the ASL flashback, Luffy was training his ass off before he actually made his way in the first ever chapter of One Piece, guys. Luffy was training so hard. We've even seen recently Kuma was watching over Luffy train. So yeah, I do think there is a little context that needs to be discussed in the East Blue Saga. Then there's of course the Alabasta Skypiea arcs, or the Alabasta Saga and the Skypiea Saga, of course. And I believe there's definitely more to this moment. First of all, Alabasta, this was kind of Luffy's humbling moment. He was pretty much going through the East Blue pretty easily. But in Alabasta, he had to fight Crocodile 3 times, and he almost died in that fight, you guys. So having to fight a warlord 3 times, showing that Luffy wanted to surpass Crocodile. He was weaker than Crocodile, wanted to surpass him. And you have to understand, people to this day still believe Luffy wasn't technically stronger than Crocodile. And then of course there's Skypiea, where his Delph Fruit natural advantage helped him get past NL, who mollywopped everybody on Skypiea. And then people can also mention Aokiji, how Aokiji humbled Luffy as an admiral, where Luffy had to change his entire outlook on fighting. Yes, so people think that is the true reason why time skips are needed, is the humbling he got in the Alabasta Saga. But then people can argue that Water 7 Enies Lobby kind of goes against that, because in Water 7 he gets humbled again by Rob Lucci and of course CP9 and their techniques, and then Enies Lobby comes, he finally gets to thinking about the Aokiji fight, and of course Water 7, about Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd. Yes, he realized this guy's stronger, and he's been naturally trying to develop something with his Delph Fruit so he can actually go against these stronger opponents. And wow, did he go against stronger opponents by defeating Rob Lucci, giving it all he had. So yeah, Water 7, Enies Lobby, and even through the Bark, when you see him combine Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd at the same time, going against Moria, going a Nightmare Luffy against Oz, and just going insanely powerful in Thriller Bark. So yeah, I definitely believe Luffy though was maxing out too hard. Like, he was putting too much effort in quickly finding a way to be stronger. That's the reason why even his crew was worried about Luffy. Like, yo, Luffy's going too hard, he's pushing his body too hard. Zoro had to sacrifice his body to save Luffy. Like, this is not a very efficient way of being a very strong pirate crew. And then of course there's the War Saga, Amazon Lily, Impel Down, and Marineford. Like, I'm not gonna mention Sabaody because we all saw what happened in Sabaody. That was the ultimate humbling, guys. During Sabaody arc with Kizaru, Sentomaru, and Kuma, yeah, there's a reason why it always segues to the War Saga, in which Amazon Lily, nothing really much happens here when it comes to progression of power, but he does use his first ever strong blast of Conqueror's Haki. Then of course there's Impel Down and Marineford, where he's just going up against stronger and stronger guys, Magellan, Blackbeard. He's running into Crocodile, Jinbei, just monsters after monsters, the Shitty the Rain and Impel Down. Like, there's just monsters here. And then Marineford is just the ultimate definition of monsters when it comes to him not even being that strong compared to seeing the warlords, seeing the Yonko Top Young commanders, seeing the admirals, and seeing Whitebeard, seeing his grandfather Garp and Sengoku. Like, there was just monsters. Luffy was surrounded by monsters, but he still had an impact in that War Saga. But him in front of those 3 admirals was like, yeah, this guy definitely needs a time skip. It's always the admirals, like Aokiji first, then this Kizaru, and of course the 3 admirals in front of him that really show that he needs a time skip. And that's why he got that scar from Akano in Marineford. And Shanks said, I don't want to see Luffy yet. He's not ready for me to see him. Time skip was needed. Yes, that led into the first official time skip and the only official time skip, where we see Rayleigh teaching Luffy all 3 basics of Haki. We see Mihawk teaching Zoro swordsmanship and how to coat your sword and armor Haki. And then of course there's Ivankov teaching Sanji some secret techniques as well. And of course, I know Rayleigh only taught Luffy for 18 months and then left so Luffy can develop his own things in the next 6 months. But still, this time skip is what really changed the game for these Straw Hat Pirates in their journey in the new world. Fishman Island was kind of like the showing of what they learned through the time skip. seeing amazing things from Luffy with his Haki, the conquers Haki taking out 50,000 fishermen, seeing Zoro and Sanji so fast in the water, and Zoro taking out Hody underwater. Like, it was just cool stuff after cool stuff after cool stuff, and there was no real big challenge in Fishman Island. Then of course Punk Hazard, we've seen that Zoro had to remind Luffy to stop trolling after the Caesar Clown defeat, and it's really kind of changed the game to like, yeah, we actually have to go all out. They didn't go all out in Punk Hazard, but they had to start going all out. Like, we had Virgo cracking Sanji's shin. Like, there was a lot of like near miss moments, and that's where Dressrosa comes into play. And Dressrosa, man, oh man, did it come to play. Yes, Dressrosa was very interesting because we had Fujitora and Zoro and that humbling experience with the Admiral. And then of course we had Doflamingo with Sanji, and Doflamingo of course with Luffy and Law. Like, all these guys were getting humbled during this arc. Yonko, Cruz, and Big Mom coming out of nowhere to separate the Straw Hat Pirates, and then Luffy having to go gear fourth, Zoro having to finally use his Haki with his sword against Pika, and then Luffy having to get people to help him. Like, he had a lot of help against Doflamingo for a reason, and he had to go King Kong Gun, a city level attack. I'm telling you guys right now, Dressrosa was kind of like, yeah, this is all we learned after the time skip. We're going all out. We're not Zoro necessarily, but more so Luffy. Now, I believe Whole Cake Island was kind of like they already reached their max. After Dressrosa, we get to Zoe. Nothing really much happens in Zoe, but Dressrosa and then Zoe and then Whole Cake Island's kind of like, yeah, we reached our max, and now we have to get stronger through battles. And that's where we see Luffy versus Cracker, and that's when we see Luffy versus Katakuri, where Haki blooming becomes a thing, guys. Where we have Jinbei helping out Luffy in Whole Cake Island, like Brook going all out just to help get the rope phonograph from Big Mom. Like, we're really getting pushed to the limit, guys. It's a really big deal. And Luffy gets a lot of claim, the 5th Emperor, just for defeating 2 top-down commanders without the context of how hard it took him to actually do that. And he grew strong getting Future Sight against Katakuri. Like, Rayleigh teaching Luffy that you can get strong through time skip and training, but Haki blooming is a thing. You got to get stronger through battles, guys. Like, you can't just be time skip after time skip. And that's the thing Rayleigh was really saying that was really smart, in my opinion. And then there's Wano. Wano's kind of like this concept of Whole Cake Island on steroids. We've seen it with all 3 Monster Trio members. Luffy trying to learn Advanced Arm and Haki. Zoro getting Enma's sword and trying to master it, of course. And there's Sanji, of course, using the Raid Suit and then trying to go against the Raid Suit. And we've seen the developments in with their Luffy's Conqueror's Haki, Zoro's Conqueror's Haki, and bringing out Ashura going all out. Sanji, of course, the exoskeleton and the Haki on top of that for the blue flames. Yes, the Monster Trio really were on steroids when it comes to Haki blooming and just getting stronger through battle. And Wano, there wasn't many times to get through Wano and Onigashima and the whole rooftop thing and everything, but still, I do think the Oda wanted to give the concept of, yeah, we're getting stronger as the story goes, not needing a time skip, and we're gonna fight monsters like Kaido and Big Mom and King and Queen, and I loved it. Then there's Egghead Island, where we get back to the kind of like the trolling era of One Piece, kind of like Fishman Island and Punk Hazard, where yes, we're so strong, we're a Yonko level crew now. We don't really have to try as hard as we used to because we got so much stronger after Wano. And Egghead Island was like showcasing how strong these Straw Hat Pirates crew are, and honestly, they were really impressive, from Jinbei to Sanji to Zoro to Luffy, which none of them were really going all out in this in their battles. Luffy with, of course, against Lucci and Kizaru in this Gorosei. Zoro versus, of course, Lucci, and Sanji, of course, having clashes with Kizaru and Saturn. And it just was really cool to see how even they weren't even going all out, but it kind of was a warning though when it comes to the Gorosei showing amazing Haki. Jinbei commented on it's like there's about to be some much stronger opponents, and I don't know how many times you guys can do the Wano blueprint. And this is where Elbaf comes into play, because Elbaf to me is kind of like that arc where they have to improve throughout the arc, but there has to be a time skip as well, and it's going to bring a lot of final saga hype. So Elbaf is definitely that arc, especially when Scarpa Kaban mentioned how to control your Conqueror's Haki coding to Luffy, and Zoro didn't even know he was using Conqueror's Haki coding, and Sanji wanted Conqueror's Haki coding so much, but Scarpa Kaban having it definitely helps the case of Sanji getting in the future. Loki realizing, oh, that's what how I put into words of Conqueror's Haki coding. It's just cool to see how we're gonna see a part 1 to Elbaf, in my opinion. So yes, my theory is Elbaf will have them grow tremendously in power and their Haki. Elbaf is a war island, you guys. Elbaf conquered the New World back in the day, and right now they're small humans in a very giant, huge area. But time, in my opinion, will move in the outside world faster. I think we can get a 1-year time skip while they are only 4 months to 3 months in Elbaf, and we're probably gonna get a part 1 Elbaf and a part 2 Elbaf, kind of like, of course, Wano, and then of course Onigashima. Where part 1 Elbaf, they will lose to Imu and the Holy Knights, or will struggle in some sense, and they will have to work together. Luffy and Loki, Zoro, Sanji, the Wings, Jinbei, and the rest of the Straw Pirates have to go crazy. Usopp has to become a brave warrior of the sea. And part 2 of Elbaf is where they actually are gonna win and lead into the final war for the One Piece, and the Road Poneglyphs, and the Man Marked by Flames, and Blackbeard and Shanks, and Dragon, and the Marines, and Imu hype. Yes, guys, Elbaf's time skip is really good for progressing a lot of plot lines into the end game. Yes, guys, we are in the end game of One Piece, so buckle up. It's not gonna slow down anytime soon.